Hi everybody, I'm doing a series of videos where I cover off some major language within real estate that every buyer and seller should understand. So in this video, we're going to cover off deposits. So I'm going to explain what deposits are, how they're used in real estate, and I'm going to show you exactly in this agreement of purchase and sale where you will see the deposit line. So what is a deposit? A deposit is something that the purchaser provides to the seller to show good faith and security when they make an offer. So a deposit is an amount of money that is put towards the purchase price of the home. And it's done when you make an agreement of purchase and sale. So the deposit is an integral part of the agreement of purchase and sale. And we actually don't post that something has actually been sold until the deposit has been received and been okayed. So what is a deposit? A deposit is an amount of money, and typically in Toronto, it's 5% of the purchase price. So what does that mean? So let's say you are making an offer on a home that's $1 million. Typically, what we expect is that your deposit amount will be $50,000. And that $50,000, it represents 5%, which is what it's typically in Toronto. Now, it could be more or less. Sometimes buyers will actually give more to show that they're really serious, especially in multiple offers. They want to make sure that the seller knows, like, we absolutely want this, so we have extra money, so we're going to actually put it down as a bigger deposit. Now, in order to provide a deposit, it has to be typically a certified check or a bank draft. So you have to have the money ready to go. So if you are making an offer, think about having 5% of the offer price ready as your deposit. Now, this deposit is held in trust. So what does that mean? It means that when you provide the deposit, it's typically the listing brokerage who holds it in their trust account. Now, there are situations where it might be held in a lawyer's trust account or other things like that, but typically it's held in the listing brokerage's trust account. That means that it's also insured by RICO, which is our real estate agents, our governing body, and so our insurance covers that deposit. In addition to that, we also have requirements on how that deposit will be treated as far as interest goes and how much interest, if any interest, is paid on that deposit while it's being held. So all of that means that you pay a deposit as, by certified check or bank draft, and then it's held in a real estate trust account. Now, the other thing I will say is that when you are doing this, you have a few different options when it comes to making an offer on how that deposit will be done. So this is a typical agreement of purchase and sale, and where you will see the deposit is right here. Deposit, buyer submits, and then you have three different options for your deposit. The first one is herewith. Now, herewith means that you are actually giving the deposit with the offer. So you have already gone to the bank, you've already got a bank draft, you've already made the deposit out to the real estate brokerage and trust, and you are ready to submit that deposit with your offer. So if I'm your agent, I'm taking a photo of that deposit, and when I submit the offer, I'm submitting the photo of the deposit as well. And then if your offer gets accepted, because the deposit is already ready, you're expected to deliver that deposit immediately if your offer is accepted. So that's what herewith means. Upon acceptance. Upon acceptance means that you're actually not putting the deposit with the offer, but if they accept your offer, then you will provide the deposit, and you need to provide that deposit within 24 hours. So again, that's why it has to be liquid and available immediately, because you need to provide it within 24 hours. Now, that excludes like Saturday, Sundays, and bank holidays. It's 24 hours within excluding those days. So the first one is you're providing the deposit right away with the offer. The second one, upon acceptance, is you are only providing the deposit if your offer is accepted. And then the third one is as described in this agreement. Now, if you put that, that means you're going to describe exactly how the deposit will be handled in a schedule in the agreement. And I've had this happen for a buyer who was out of town, and she was purchasing a condo. And so she couldn't get the deposit with the offer or within 24 hours. Now, this condo was not in multiple offers or anything like that, so the seller agreed to it. And we also had a status certificate condition within the offer. So we said that once the status certificate was proven to be fine, then we would provide the deposit at that time. So everybody was fine with it, but that's what as otherwise described in this agreement would mean. I will say if it's a hot property with multiple offers, you're going to usually find Herewith. If it's a good property or a typical property, it's usually upon acceptance. And this, as otherwise described in this agreement, is very rare. It isn't used that often, and it's usually for circumstances where I just said. So that's the deposit. So couple of things I will say. So let's say for whatever reason you submit a deposit and your offer isn't accepted and you get the check back and you just put it back into the account, and then you wait for the next time you do another offer, you'll have to do another deposit check, because the deposit check is actually made out to the listing brokerage in trust, or it could be a lawyer or something like that, but it's not the same check that you can use for a bunch of different offers. It's a different listing brokerage each time. So that's the first thing. The second thing to keep in mind is that let's say you have conditions in the offer. So your offer is accepted, but you've put some conditions in. So let's say you've put in a financing condition and a home inspection condition. Well, let's say the financing you get approved and it's all good, great. But then you do the home inspection and you realize that there's a lot more wrong with the home than you thought. And so you don't like the financing or the home inspection condition and you want to get out of the deal. Well, if those conditions were put into the agreement and they were worded that the buyer has the right to exit the agreement because of those conditions, then you would get the deposit back and there would be no deduction and you would get it back. So even though you've put the deposit in, if you've had conditions and it's legitimate for you to get back the deposit, you will get it back. And then finally, if you need to get out of the deal for conditions that are not legitimate, like it's a buyer's issue that you're trying to get rid of a deal, I just did a video on this, so go ahead and take a look at it. But that means that the deposit is at risk. And there's other things at risk too. You could be sued for any value difference if they have to resell the house. So watch the video if you want to get more details. But that's when your deposit is at risk. So that's kind of deposits in a nutshell. So let me summarize. But before I do, if you are finding value in these videos, please like and subscribe. It really helps us out. And if you have any comments, good or bad, I'd love to hear them. And if you have any real estate needs, feel free to call, text, email, or WhatsApp, and we'll be sure to take care of you. Let's summarize what deposits are again. So deposits are a sign of good faith to the seller and a financial security to the seller. They're usually about 5% in Toronto, and they have to be in liquid form so that you can do a bank draft or a certified check. You have 3 options when it comes to deposits: Herewith, which is immediately with your offer, upon acceptance, which is typically 24 hours after it's accepted, or as described, which means that you're making other arrangements. If you have conditions which allows the buyer to get out of it, then even with an accepted offer where they take the deposit, then you would get it back. And then finally, the deposit is actually going towards your closing costs. So it might go towards your down payment or your closing costs or your land transfer tax, but it is your money. You're just putting it towards your purchase price. And finally, the deposit is an integral part of the purchase and sale agreement, and we as realtors cannot post something as sold unless a deposit is there. And finally, we as realtors cannot say something is sold until we've received the deposit. So that's a deposit, integral part of purchase and sale of a home in Toronto and Ontario and Canada for that matter. And if you have any questions about it or any other real estate questions, feel free to reach out. Thanks for watching. I'm Connie Sarvanandan.